Hey everybody, it's Dr. Charles Jenkins. I am so elated, honored, and excited to be joining you this year for Peace and Purpose 2021. I am so excited to help you work through purpose and reinvention. Before I jump in, I want to send a very special shout out to my dear brother, Munson Steve, and the entire Rolling Out family. Thank you guys for having me. We appreciate your footprint in the community and in the world. So, purpose and reinvention. First of all, let's define purpose. Purpose is your assignment, a responsibility, an obligation, the thing you were created to do, or the things you were created to do. That word reinvention, reinvent, to invent again, to create again, to recreate. Very simply, it means to turn into something else, to transform, to become something else again, or to become something else, very simply. And as we think about this whole idea of peace, which is calm in the midst of chaos, there is no higher or greater way to have peace than to be in purpose, to know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're operating in the roles or in the assignments or the responsibilities that you're supposed to be operating in. And quite often, a lack of peace is connected to a lack of purpose. And so I want to kind of talk you through how to discover your purposes, because there are many of us, like this amazing passage in scripture. God gave one talent, 1 2, 1 5. And so for some of us, it's one thing you're supposed to do all the time. It's what you do, not who you are, but it's what you do, because there's a difference between the person and the gift. When the gift ceases or you're no longer able to do what you do, you still are who you are. And so you got to have that, because sometimes we allow what we do to become who we are. And when we stop doing what we do, we stop being who we can be. And we allow a loss of a role, a responsibility, capacity, success, quite often to destroy our identity and our personhood. And in many instances, as I talk about in my new book, Seasons, you know, different purposes are for different reasons and different seasons. To everything, there is a time. There are starter's blocks and there are finish lines. There are red lights, yellow lights, and green lights all at the same time. And so as we work it through, and I'm gonna be talking through my brand new book, Seasons, that's available at charlesjenkins.com. Many of the things that I will talk to you about today are in this book. 20 to 25 years of conversations, questions, counseling, everyone from the highest level of life all the way down to wherever you want to name. But I'm excited because this question of discovering your purpose, how to discover it, how to know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, I want to help you think it through. So let me give you a handful of people, and I want to use some biblical characters, as there are amazing stories in scripture that give us clear ideas of how you could potentially discover your purposes and know that you're doing what you're supposed to do. And when you know it, adversity can come, people can get on your nerves, frustrations, fatigue, disappointment, but you stay in it, you stick with it, you push through whatever you got to push through, because you know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And so how can you discover your purpose? Number one, you can stumble into it. You can stumble into it. In my book, I talk about Moses, who was a murderer, a tough guy. He's working for his father-in-law. One day he goes for a walk. As he's on this journey, there is this epiphany or theophany, a magical moment, a God moment, if we're talking theologically. And this voice in his head comes to him as he sees this bush that is inflamed as he's walking down the street. And this voice says to him, Go tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Scripture teaches us that it's God that's speaking to him. And God can speak to any one of us through thoughts, ideas, situations, people, but primarily the scriptures. I'm going to say it again. God can speak to any one of us through thoughts, ideas, situations, people, but primarily the scriptures. It's all in the book. You want to dig into each one of those. So check it out. He gets these thoughts on his mind, these words on his mind. Go tell Pharaoh to let my people go. There are two things that are happening. One, purpose. He is being guided to engage and embrace an assignment. Two, reinvention is happening. He is being challenged to become something he's never been, to do something he has never done before. How does it happen? He stumbles into it. It's an ordinary day. This isn't anything he planned, went to school for, prayed for, anticipated, but it grips him and he gets this undeniable, unspeakable assignment, these words that are placed on his mind. And when you read, if you ever read the scripture that talks about this story, I believe it's in Exodus 3, Moses is like, y'all cannot possibly want me with my reputation, my track record, the mistakes I've made. God, you cannot possibly want me in this role as a leader of Israel when everything I've gotten wrong, everything I don't know how to do. He goes forward to say, you want me to go speak, and I'm not a good speaker. I'm not eloquent. I'm not articulate. I'm not enunciate. The scriptures say that God comes back and says, who made your mouth? Here it is. And I don't know who this is for. Purpose does not necessarily have anything to do with who you've been, what you've done wrong, or what you don't know how to do, or what you think you don't know how to do at this present moment. Purpose often leads us to a place of preparation. Purpose, in this instance, it led Moses to a place of performance, because sometimes we're called to do something that we don't have time to prepare for. Just like Nike, you gotta just do it. So he stumbles into it. It's an ordinary day, and here he is doing something he never wanted to do, never anticipated doing, never dreamed he would be doing. I've got so many of those moments in my own life, so many things that I didn't plan. With some of the stuff you see behind me, sharing music around the world, I never planned to do it. I never anticipated it. If I'm honest, I stumbled into it. Number two, let's keep going. You can be escorted into your purpose. There's a beautiful story in scripture about David, and I'm gonna breeze through these. David, nothing that I see about his story says that he was praying to be a king, anticipating being a king, looking forward to being a king. As the prophet Samuel was looking for a king, as God had placed on his heart, I want you to identify a brand new king. He goes through all of Jesse's sons, a gentleman in scripture who brought all of his sons and paraded them before Samuel. Samuel said, there's somebody else. There's another somebody. He says, yeah, these all your kids? No, I got one more. It's a shepherd boy though, but he's tending the sheep. He's not who you want to see. Bring him. They bring him, start pouring oil on him. That word oil means to anoint, or it means to pour on power for a specific assignment. Starts pouring the oil on him when he shows up. David has no idea what's going on. He has just been anointed, appointed, chosen as the next king. Now, did David say, I know this is my purpose? No. Someone else in his life, his scenario, in this instance, somebody he didn't even know, was used to escort him into his purpose. And so sometimes a family member, a coworker, a friend can be used to affirm on you what you don't even know is in you. Number 3, let's keep going. You can be recruited into your purpose. You can be recruited. David was escorted. They brought him to bear. Jesus, at a certain point, invites the disciples to join him on a journey to change the world. He extends an invitation, recruits them. Hey guys, come help me be fishers of men, the scripture says it. Come help me change people's lives, men and women. They're invited. They're all business guys in context, and he invites them to join him on a journey. You can be recruited into your purpose. Somebody can recruit you, invite you, in some instances, challenge you, as Jesus challenged the disciples. Let's keep going. You can receive signs or confirmations to discover your purpose. It's an amazing story about a brother named Gideon. He's invited to lead an army in scripture. And he's like, no, there's no way I'm the guy. And he keeps getting these words that he is the guy. So he says, I tell you what, God, I need you to do some stuff. Look, if this is you wanting me to do this job, take this assignment, this role, this responsibility, if I've been created to do this thing, I'm going to take a rag. I'm going to take a rag. I'm going to put it outside. I want you to rain on it, but not around it. It happens. He's like, nah, this can't be true. He gets another one that says, this time I want you to rain around it, but not on it. He comes back. It's wet all around it and it's dry. He says, okay, I'm the guy. He got signs. And there are times when there can be clear confirmations. There can be, clear markers, things that are undeniably, unmistakably cannot be shaken. It is what it is. You saw what you saw. You felt what you felt. You heard what you heard. And, we're never 100%, right? Because we're human beings. But in many instances, God can use people, places, things, circumstances, and situations to bring confirmations. A couple more. How can you discover your purpose? You can volunteer for it. Isaiah, in an amazing passage, he gets this sense that there was a need for a particular responsibility, and there's a gap. He steps into that gap. He says, if you need somebody, I'm here. Send me, I'll go. He volunteers, and he completely has this heart towards this specific particular role responsibility, and he volunteers for it. There are times when there's a burden on your heart, a heaviness, an unshakable, undeniable, this is where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to do. And sometimes you can volunteer for it and find yourself slotted in like a piece in a puzzle, fitting perfectly. And I can keep going. Let me give you a couple of more. Ruth was advised into her purpose by her mother-in-law, Naomi. The Apostle Paul suffered into his purpose. It was on the Damascus Road. He's on the ground. At this moment, he has a very special epiphany, theophany. Those are big words for a God moment, an eye-opening, awakening, a aha, we call it. And he discovers that there's a new season, a new role, and he ends up ministering. That word ministering just means serving, service, and he ends up preaching the gospel. There are myriad of other ways that you can discover your purpose. Those are a handful, and sometimes you might need a little bit of all of them. But I can promise you from personal experience, peace is connected to purpose. Doesn't mean you won't experience anxiety. Doesn't mean you won't experience pain. Doesn't mean you won't experience anguish. Doesn't mean you won't do the wrong things or be wrong at points. But when you are in what you're supposed to be, and there's no greater fulfillment than knowing that you're doing the things that you're supposed to do. And let me say this really fast, that sometimes we can think our purpose is this big, I'm called to preach the gospel only, and many of you are. But maybe your purpose is to be a teacher. Maybe your purpose is to be a secretary. Maybe your purpose is to be a grandmother, an amazing grandmother, a husband, a father, a wife, an amazing neighbor. I think that sometimes we can overcomplicate, are the words that I want to use, what purpose actually is. Remember, it's responsibility, it's assignment, it's obligation. It's the thing or the things you were created to do. And quite often, you want to make sure that you are both prayerful, thoughtful, and you have people around you who have great vision and great eyesight too, assets and not liabilities, faucets and not drains, people who can fill you and fuel you and not just drain you. Simultaneously, there are some drains around you. Know that you got to offset that with people who fill you up, doing things that fill you up, reading things that fill you up, so that you can be able to pour out like you need to. So as we think about purpose, right? The things that I'm supposed to be doing, and it's not easy. That's why I think sometimes you can need a little bit of all the things that I mentioned. Sometimes as one season of purpose ends, or sometimes as your responsibilities expand, because sometimes you got to wear many hats all at the same time, there's a need for reinvention. Because sometimes you have to turn into something else, or you have to be something you've never intended or desired or wanted to be. And so, particularly in the cultural season that we're in, it's important to note that when seasons change, industries change, cultural norms change, the way things are done are changed. You got to be able to turn into something else. Sometimes, just very practically, whether you are moving from, grammar school to high school to college to being on your own, or just moving into the workforce, or moving into a new city, a new job, a new relationship, a new role. Maybe you're becoming a mother, a spouse. Maybe you're becoming, a godmother, a godfather. What does it look like to become something else? And I think sometimes we don't give it the attention, the time. So when I say reinvent, I want to be clear. I'm speaking about the intentionality of becoming something else, not just taking on the title, but taking on the job description, taking on the objectives, the aims, and the goals to be successfully effective in whatever that role is, even if that's a caretaker, adopting and adapting a mindset to say, this is who I am now. I said this way: yesterday's price is not today's price. You are suddenly something else, which calls maybe for a new mindset, a new heart. That word heart in Hebrew, it speaks to cognition, my thoughts, emotions, my feelings, and volition, my will, my desires, what I intend to do, what I want to do. And so maybe you need a new heart for where you're at now, or for what your surroundings are now. I gotta think different. I gotta feel different. I've gotta do different things. Volition, cognition, and my emotions. Cognition, feelings, emotion, and then my volition, my will. Sometimes it's difficult because sometimes you're in a new season and you don't even know you're in a new season. And so it's important to pay attention to your surroundings, because you can miss a moment if you're not paying attention to your climate. Let's say that again. You can miss a moment if you're not paying attention to your climate. And so pay attention to what's changed around you, who's changed around you, how have you changed, how should you change, and what do you need to do to be successful in this season? because quite often, even as you consider a football game, sometimes the play calling can change contingent upon what the climate is. And you got to have the ability to be agile and flexible, which isn't always easy, especially if you're aging and comfortable, or even if you're not aging, if you're just comfortable and content. And so reinvention is about a mindset committed to relevance. What do I need to be today? Who do I need to be today to be my best? I'll give you a handful of things I want you to write down, because when you're thinking about reinvention, it's also important to think through and know, what are my relationships for this season? What is my education need to be like? There's some new things that I'm doing in this season. I signed up the Kellogg School of Business to take some classes. I purchased a subscription to Masterclass. I identified thought leaders, creatives and curators in the new spaces that I'm playing in to study and learn and develop. You can't be afraid to start over and start at ground zero when you've reached the mountaintop peak of other areas. I'm gonna say that again because I almost tongue-tied myself. When you've been at the top in other areas, you can't be afraid to start at ground zero. And so there's some lanes and areas. I remember I hit one leader in one area and was like, yo, can I come pour coffee? I just want to study what you're doing. I've been blessed to be very successful in a number of other areas. You got to have the humility to be able to go back to the starter's blocks and be willing to pour coffee, to grow and learn and achieve in another area. And so when you're thinking about reinvention, let me give you a handful of things. Write these down. Up front. You need to be upfront with yourself, as I mentioned. Do an audit of your surroundings and of your life. Take inventory. What's happening? What needs to happen? What do I need to do? It gets down to how you eat, right? At this current moment, I'm entering a touring season with my music. And so what do I need? How do I need to be thinking? I need to reinvent my diet, what I'm eating. And so I've changed it up. I'm doing 5 miles every day. I hate it. I don't like it, but you have to, what is it? Change your heart, my cognition, my thoughts, my emotion, my feelings, my volition, my will, my desires, what I intend to do. And so because I want to be effective, and I don't want to be breathing like I can't breathe, here are things I need to do. So wherever you are in life, all across the board, you want to think about, what do I need to do to make the adjustments to be successful and effective? And so upfront, uplight. What does it mean to uplight? I'm reinventing. I want to be upfront. I want to uplight. When you walk into a room, interior designers or event planners will often set lights up around the room to light up the room, or to make the room more spectacular, or to make the room more beautiful, or to captivate you. Or women quite often, you have, what's the little mirror called with the lights? Y'all know what I'm talking about. That's uplighting, right? As you're doing your makeup, you're not in a dark room doing makeup. In that same regard, you want to do uplighting for your life. Who are the lights in your life you can look up to that can light up your life, right? As you work on you, who are the lights that shine on you, that enable you to see you better, more clearer, and help you make the adjustments to take your life to the next level? Upgrade. Not too long ago on my phone, I got a notification, your upgrade is better, available rather. Your upgrade is available. Better is on my mind because that's what I was getting ready to say. What do I need to do to be better? What are the adjustments I need? How can I upgrade my life from the inside out? We don't want to just be flowers. We want to be fruit trees. Flowers are beautiful and they smell good. Instagram is full of flowers. Hopefully, it's also full of trees. People who are not just beautiful, but productive, producing, bearing fruit, getting results. And so we don't want to just be flowers. We want to be trees. Yeah, we want to look good. We want to smell good, but we also want to produce good times 10. And so think about, make a list. How do I make an upgrade, or how do I get or receive an upgrade? Let me give you a couple more. Update. That speaks to relevance. You want to make sure you're in tune with the times, and you're most effective and you're most productive in whatever role or lane you're flowing in as you transform into something else. Upcharge. And what I mean by that is, and you've been at restaurants where if you order a steak, if you want to add shrimp or lobster or something else, there's an upcharge. Enhancements, being willing to pay the price for the upgrade, right? Because a lot of times we want upgrades, but we're not willing to pay the price for that. And so you get what you pay for. And sometimes you have to pay with your mind and with your time and with your body. And also with money, right? You got to spend to win. And so how do you have the mindset to be willing to pay the price, whether that's going back to school, whether that's taking that class, whether that's going to the gym, whether that's sitting in those meetings, whether it's watching that content. Let me give you these other two, and we shift. Uproot. What's got to go? Could be some conversations, could be some people, could be some habits, could be, but you got to uproot. My daddy was a landscaper, and my daddy would always say, before we plant flowers, we got to pull up the weeds, because the weeds will choke out the flowers. And so if you're trying to do something amazing or great, you got to pull up the weeds, or the weeds will choke out your flowers. Sometimes those are people, places, things, habits. We are all under construction, but the desire must be to not sabotage yourself. I think a lot of time we give our haters more attention than we should give our own weeds. Last one. Upward. What do you need to do to go upward? And I'm gonna share something with you very special. I had a conversation at breakfast the other day, and it was a business conversation, and this corporate coach was sharing with me, let's look at your cash in and your cash out. Your cash in are the things that enable you to have, this is really good, enables you to have resources now. I said it wrong. Cash now, cash later. Cash now, cash later. Cash now brings you resources now. Cash later are things you have in the pipeline, ideas, concepts, maybe even investments or actionable things that are in process. They're projects you're a part of, things that you're working on, not just lofty. This amazing conversation, this phenomenal lady said to me that some of these things over here, they're in progress, they will yield. But also note that there are some things that could yield if you move them over to cash now and operationalize them. If you have an idea that is not operationalized, it will be an idea again next year. But you've got to identify, what is the plan? Who is the person or the people that are going to help you execute this, get this done? Who is the point person that's going to follow through to get this done? A concept that would help me go upward from a business standpoint. I just shared that because I thought it was really good. But separately, you got to actionize how you grow and how you go up. It's not osmosis and it doesn't just happen automatically. What's your strategy? What's your game plan? Who are the people that are going to engage? Where do you need to be to get it done? And what do you need to make sure you're most successful? I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has been a blessing. Again, thank you to Monson Steve, the Rolling Out family. And listen, by all means, go get my book, Seasons, at charlesjenkins.com. May God bless you. You operate in your purposes, full of peace. And if you need to, don't be afraid to reinvent yourself. Love.